Leone had a big quarrel with them here because he wanted his movie to be shown in toto. They said, no, it's three hours or more. You want to get the audience in and get them out. Show it again and again and again. So he had to cut about 25 minutes, and it riled him. He didn't like that.
He certainly did not like it, but then he was convinced by United Artists that that was a way of making the film more acceptable by the American audience.
It's a dying art, the film stuff. Not many people understand it anymore. Not many people try and even make it better. I own Triage Lab, my partner Tony Monroe and I. We specialize in photochemical restoration, and we handle obsolete formats. The project came through us through John Kirk at MGM. He was talking to me one day about Technoscope. He wanted to do the work with us, and when he found out that we could handle the format, he did. Technoscope is a two-perf process devised by Technicolor in the late 1950s. It allowed producers and directors and cinematographers to shoot an anamorphic image without the cumbersome CinemaScope lenses. They were able to use a wide variety of flat lenses to do that, including zoom lenses. The depth of field was better. It was also cheaper to use because stock costs were cut in half and the processing was cut in half. Technicolor would convert it to an anamorphic image, which played as normal CinemaScope in the theaters. Technoscope is obsolete. It's very difficult to find a laboratory that understands how it works. It's very time-consuming. It all has to be done by eye. The earlier scanoptic lenses could be soft. We use a lens that sits behind a Nikon primary lens, that we actually have the ability to focus both the horizontal and the vertical axis of that lens, which gives a superior image. We can definitely make the Technoscope look better now than it looked when it was in the theaters.
In order for Triage to do this version of the film, I ordered a print to be made from the Italian version, which is the complete version, basically. So they used this Italian print as their reference guide to make sure that they were getting everything in and that it would match the music and effects and the rest of the dialogue.
We had to editorially conform pretty much everything. The biggest challenge was basically staying in sync. In particular, in the very last scene of the picture, Eli Wallach runs out yelling at Clint, "I know who you are." Hey, blood! It was entirely out of sync. And it was entirely out of sync in the versions that were done in the 1980s. And we had to go through all the elements and find that shot. Just a day, son of a... John had a conformed track, and he had Eli Wallach and Clint Eastwood come in and redo lines of shots that had been cut out of the American version.
Sei numero perfetto.
Non è tre il numero perfetto.
Sì, ma io sei colpi qui dentro.
The reason that I needed to bring in Clint Eastwood, Eli Wallach, and other actors to do their lines in English for this version was that for the original release, it was cut for the English language version before the actors went into the studios in New York to do the English language dub. So these scenes had never been dubbed before. Otherwise, we could have just pulled them out and added them in, and their voices would have sounded the same. That's why I brought them in and had them do the lines. Even though, obviously, Clint Eastwood and Eli Wallach sound a little bit older, I felt it was important to use their voices as opposed to trying to get someone to really imitate what they would have sounded like a long time ago.
Adesso mangiamo. Cioè.
Let's eat. That is, I'll eat.
The first ADR session that we did was in October of 2002. Then a few weeks later, after the first of the year, we brought in the other actors. We found a wonderful actor, Simon Prescott, who did Lee Van Cleef's voice, and some other actors who did the rest. And those were all done in a period of just a couple of days. I felt like that as long as we were going to be fixing up the picture, that we needed to do something about the sound as well. I think audiences today are used to having a bigger, fuller sound, particularly for a movie like this, which is obviously an epic and widescreen, and it would have sounded, I think, rather hollow had we left it in just the old mono. Some of it was very easy to do, but some of it was a little harder. The sound effects and the music were unfortunately on the same track. Also, when we were trying to spread the sound, you can't copy a sound from the front of the screen and put it at the back at the same time without having what they call a phasing problem. So we did have to sometimes add an effect like an explosion or a gunshot or something that wasn't in the original, just in order to avoid having that sound problem. And it also was necessary just because of the fact we were doing a 5.1. When you go into that realm, it changes the quality of the sound. If we had left some of the sound effects the way that they were in the original, they would have sounded awful compared to the dialogue and the music. When I was looking for elements, I was made aware that there were a lot of scenes that didn't end up even in the Italian version. I thought, well, as long as I'm looking for elements, why not? Let's look around. Some of them appeared to have been lost or stolen, or we weren't able to find those. But I did find a couple of them. And one of the scenes I did elect to put back into the film. It was the scene where Tuco goes to the cave to recruit the 3 banditos.
If you work for a living, why do you kill yourself working?
I did find out that the scene was shown in the original Roman premiere of the film and then was cut for the Italian version. So I didn't feel like I was putting in something that had never been there. I think taking that scene out created a continuity problem in the film because up to that point, Tuco was alone, and then all of a sudden you see him coming into town to this hotel with these 3 banditos, and you think, well, where on earth did those guys come from? So I felt like it was important to put that in. I did also find a complete version of the scene that I call the Tuco torture sequence.
Che t'ha detto Carson quando l'hai trovato?
In the full-length version, that sequence runs about 2.5 minutes longer than it does in either the Italian or the English language original version. And the reason for that was the original negative was damaged. So in order to even save the sequence, they had to go in and recut around the footage that had been damaged. Everyone just thought that was lost. But then when the Cineteca Nazionale started their restoration, they came across a print that did have the complete sequence in it. But unfortunately, it looked so bad that I thought trying to put that into the rest of the body of the film, which looked so good, it would have thrown the audience out of the moment. You would just be shocked by how bad it looked. So I elected to leave that out, and that will be an extra on this DVD.
The fun part of the project was taking something that wasn't good and making it so it looks really good. Theatrically, it's spectacular. It came out far better than we expected.
The reaction that I've gotten so far to this version has basically been good. I think most people who see it really like seeing it again on a big screen with the sound and with the extra footage put back in.
Certainly what is on the screen is what Sergio liked and what Sergio wanted.
If your friends stay out in the damp, they're liable to catch a cold, aren't they?
I'm sure that if Sergio saw the edited scenes or knew of the addition of these scenes, would love it.
He's an artist, and he wanted his movie to be shown. Now he's gone, so they put it back in.